the sad and unfortunate situation with the Supergirl movie. It's sad because me personally, I have really wanted for years. I it is kind of weird because I'm not a feminist in any way. Like, I think feminism is horrible and it's destroying our society. Um, but I have, even though I consider myself pretty patriarchal, I still have always just kind of liked this idea of, I don't know, the ideal female heroine. And I don't mean by that like a strong, independent woman kind of idea. It's hard for me to really describe because for me, it's not somebody who just fits any of the boxes in any real way. And it's something that, like, at least in my own story writing, my own novel writing, I'm trying to make that kind of a character. Um, and I feel like the last decade or so of Hollywood completely destroying the idea of a strong female character um, has definitely set it back. Getting that unique female heroine that I've always been interested to see quite a while. I think the closest that's ever come to it was Mizu in Blue Eye Samurai, which was a TV series on Netflix, which it has a season two, which is taking a while to do. And I don't want to get into that, but um, that was kind of the closest that it's ever really gotten to that the kind of character that I've always really loved, or I've always wanted to see. Ray from Star Wars. I got excited that we might see some of that, but that was a huge letdown. It was truly a disillusioning moment for sure. That maybe Hollywood can't actually do this. So, and it's not to say that there haven't been good female characters in the past. Wonder Woman, and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman was fine. Even though I never really got into Wonder Woman, I just couldn't. And some of the Marvel characters, fine. I was kind of excited to see the Wasp, things like that, but it just never really got to that man, it's not really the niche that I was looking for. And I've been writing my own female character for a while, and trying to get to a point where I can finally really publish it. That's the hard part in novel format. But I and then the ballerina movie, I was like, man, maybe this could be it, because Hollywood's starting to kind of learn you can't just make these women female men. It doesn't work that way. And so with the ballerina movie, it's like, okay, maybe, but they just didn't really have. I don't think there was enough support for it in the end. And it was kind of like it wasn't terrible, but it was a meh. But at least like a step in the right direction, right? And that's a good sign. And I feel like I trust James Gunn, to do this well. I know it's got a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, although I've heard the comics that they're telling this story based off of actually have this kind of vibe to it. So, but anyways, with this whole situation with the new Supergirl movie, I watched the new trailer and I honestly liked it. I really liked the trailer. I think, for me, I'm trying. I say this all the time. I want to be as objective as I possibly can. I want to look at everything as honest and as fair as I can. I try to be as aware of my own presuppositions, my own, just as much self-reflection as I possibly can, and ask myself if I'm self-contradicting myself, if I'm double standarding it like crazy or what. And if so, what I do is I've been like, I would watch this trailer. I watched it a couple times, and from trying to think about it in different ways. And in one particular instance, and I watched the trailer, I wanted to really think about it. Let's imagine that this movie. Think about this, okay? Try to do this with me. Imagine this trailer came out 2009, 2010, around the time the Avengers was blowing up. Oh no, that's not the Avengers. The Avengers was a little bit later. I was like, wait a minute, 2008, that's when I graduated high school. That definitely was not the Avengers. But around the time the Avengers was becoming big, let's say that this movie came out at that time. Let's say the Snyderverse didn't even exist, which I'm not really into the Snyderverse personally. I'll be honest, I like the direction James Gunn is taking the Superman series. I think Superman has always been, it's nothing against Henry Cavill, by the way, but I just think Superman has always been, for lack of if I could sum it up, bright, not this kind of dark, Watchmen-esque thing that is always Schneider's style. I've just never found that, like, that's never appealed to me as Superman. And I'm not big in the comics personally, so I've only watched the TV shows, so I may not be a true fan or whatever. But I've always just viewed traditionally Superman as like this character of light and of goodness, and the themes, just, even though there's evil, of course, but they just never were like dark, So I've never really been into the James Gunn thing. So let's just take the James Gunn universe out. Let's just pretend like it never even was there. This is the first modern rendition of Superman, apart from the attempts back in when I was actually in high school in the 2000s periods and stuff like that. That's what this is, okay? So now you picture the Supergirl trailer in that era, like it just came out. The trailer just came out as the Avengers was just coming out. How would you view the trailer then? How would you view it? I'd think we would all just be like, oh, dude, this looks amazing. This looks incredible. I can't wait. Oh, this is amazing. I think most of us would be very, very excited. Today we're not. We're all just kind of like, eh. And so the question has to be, why? Why is it different now? I watched the Critical Drinkers review-ish of the trailer. A couple other critics who were much harder on the trailer than the casuals, you might say, the average audience. There was a lot of people I've watched the reviews on whose channels I've never heard of before, but they do all the reaction stuff like that. I watched all of these. They have a very different vibe from the Critical Drinker, who's very cynical. He's a little bit jaded, He's that crowd, and they're obviously nerdrotic and all that stuff like that. And they're like, they're and especially Amelia Alcock's comments about sexism and whatever. Like, I'll just say really quickly here, I have mixed views about her comment. On the one hand, I'm like, yeah, it was kind of dumb to say that, because it's not really what people are like, the whole, when she said, they have this weird view that people want to own women's bodies. I'm like, I don't know where that came from. I don't think that's what anybody was saying. Like, this wasn't about women's rights, I don't think. But on the other hand, I kind of get why she said it. I kind of get it. She's unfortunately in a position right now that's kind of unfair to her. Her career is kind of starting to take off a little bit, and she gets this big role. She gets to play Supergirl, and it's at a time, kind of a really crappy time, because we are in an era of people, so going back to Critical Drinker's review, he basically said, I just basically kind of like said, just kind of sort of tired of the superhero stuff, maybe. Like, that's kind of what it was. And that's what I think it is. That's why I ask you, think about the Supergirl trailer in the early 2010s, around when the Avengers came out. Think about it in that period. you would be excited. Don't tell me you wouldn't be excited. You would be like, dang, dude, the MCU just took off, and now this, dude, this is the golden age of cinema right here. Of blockbuster movies. You would be really excited. You'd be very excited. I think you would, but you're not, because that was almost, what is it? That was over 10 years ago, closing in on 15. We're all kind of tired out of it, right? I haven't watched a Marvel movie since No Way Home. I haven't watched any. Well, I don't know how many there have been, but again, I don't care. I haven't watched any of the new MCU stuff. The only thing I've watched is the new Spider-Man stuff. That's it. I haven't watched anything else. Nothing from the MCU. Um, and I think that's what it is. I don't think it has anything to do. So my opinion, if I'm going to be objective, based on the trailer of the Supergirl movie, based on the trailer, just going on the trailer alone, without any of the context of how jaded we are, how tired we are, if we just look at the trailer as it is, it's a great trailer. It's gonna be a pretty good movie. But the problem is in the particular context that we're in, that's what people are kind of like about. And it's unfortunate. I find it really unfortunate. I mean, we went through a decade of just woke crap, woman stuff, and just we've grown so jaded towards it that any female lead that pops up, we immediately just go, just, and it's unfortunate because it could probably be a pretty good movie. Now I know, I get it. I like there's all this stuff about, they had to do reshoots and audience issues and whatever. That's definitely not a good sign. But again, I haven't seen the obviously we haven't seen the movie yet. But I'm just talking about just the trailer in and of itself. Looking at the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good movie. It's not going to be woke. It's not going to be, even though she is super strong, she's basically indestructible like Superman. It looks like she's gonna have a lot of pain and struggling and go through a lot. Very relatable character in many, many ways. And I know, like, I listened to I forget the one guy's name, computing something. I forgot. I think he's Irish, and I'm sorry if I misplaced you, but I was watching his thing on it, and I disagree with a lot of what he said. There's the only thing I agree with him on when it comes to the Supergirl trailer is that it's just, we're tired. We're all kind of superheroed out. We're done, sort of done with it. It's just kind of over at this point. That's about the only thing I agree with. But he talks stuff about, like, how he's tired of the the moral gray characters and stuff like that. And I was listening, I'm like, see, I don't agree with that. And I don't even think as a Christian. I'm pretty sure he's a Christian. As a Christian, I would say those are great movies, because that is heavily reflective of a Christian worldview. Because in a Christian worldview, the biblical characters themselves are morally gray. They screw up constantly. They constantly make horrible mistakes, terrible mistakes. So I feel like if you're saying, well, I don't like morally gray characters anymore, I think I'm tired of that. I'm like, so no characters that reflect Scripture and what Scripture teaches about humanity. That's what you're saying? I love morally gray characters. I love the characters that are flawed. They're struggling with something. They have their demons that they're fighting, and overcome those. I love those kinds of stories. I will always love those stories. I will never get tired of those stories, because that is the story of man. That is humankind's story. So I was not crying, by the way. I just got something in my eye. Like, literally had something in my eye, and it's still there. But I like those kinds of characters. So I don't understand this whole, I'm tired. See, I just think there's so much. I think all of that is actually just, when you peel it all away, what he's actually struggling with is just, there's a word I'm looking for right now, but fatigue. That's what I'm like. Fatigue. It's just fatigue. That's all it is. That's the unfortunate state of things. And so, kind of going back to Millie Alcock's comments, which again was not a good thing to say. Shouldn't have said it. Should have just left it alone. But I understand why she said it. I actually get it, because people are already writing it off as it's going to suck. It's going to be a stupid movie. But I don't think they're being fair about it for the most part. It's just the fatigue. It's really what it is. We're just tired of it. We're really sick and tired of the superhero genre. The umpteenth time that the DCU is trying to get its plane off the ground, we're all just kind of like, we're burned out of this. Can we try and tell different and unique original stories? Let's put the comics away now. That's really what it is. I think if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the last 13, 14 years ish, if it wasn't for that, I think people would actually be excited for the Supergirl trailer. And that for me is kind of sad, because again, I think this is an opportunity for me at least to experience that kind of female heroine I've kind of always wanted to see. And I've always loved this version of Kara. I've always really liked this one. The one that's kind of traumatized for the destruction of her own planet. I've just because even though I'm not an alcoholic, but I can relate in so many ways to somebody who's emotionally beaten up and sort of like their worst enemy is really kind of themselves. And that, like, I just love those kinds of characters, and those are the characters I like to write. I like to write characters who have, again, they're demons, and they're struggling with something deeply, and it's hard, like, and they just make so many mistakes, but yet characters that are ultimately good characters. They want to do the right thing, and they're trying to do the right thing, and they just kind of have, oftentimes, a lot of their own sin gets in the way from them seeing clearly and doing the right things in many, many cases, but they're still ultimately good. Like, you can have morally great characters and still have a clear and objective right and wrong. I think it's possible to do, and in a Christian worldview, it's necessary to truly tell a good story. So, just once again, it's not really about moral grayness. I don't think it's what it's about. It's not. It is just simply the fatigue of the superhero genre, and it's the fatigue of it's the jadedness of the last several years of horrible female characters, just terrible female characters. And sadly, Millie Alcock is kind of, and I would say at no fault to her own. Again, the comment still not a good comment to say, but still, I'm not mad at her for making that comment. I'll just say that I'm not mad at her. I'm a little confused, but it's kind of like, I understand why she said it. I kind of get it. She's just unfortunately caught up in it, and it's sad. Like, I kind of don't want. I want the movie to do really, 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 really well. I really want it to do well. I want it to finally be that kind of what I've always wanted to see in a female heroine kind of scenario or setting. It's kind of what I've always really wanted to see, but we'll see. I hope it does well. I do genuinely hope the movie does well. But I just wanted to make those comments about it, and but I will talk to you all later. Bye bye.